The following is a production of Frank DeFreitas and the Internet Museum of Holography.
Hello, this is Frank DeFreitas, and welcome to HoloTalk, the Internet Laser and Holography Talk Show. Our toll-free number is 1-800-458-3525, or you can send an email to holotalk@holoworld.com. We've got telephone calls, we've got emails, we've got special guests coming up, so thank you for tuning in, and let's get this week's show on the road. Hello, this is Frank DeFreitas, and welcome to another broadcast of HoloTalk. Debbie Lee has the week off. I would like to welcome the educators who are listening to HoloTalk from the Eisenhower National Clearinghouse for Mathematics and Science Education. The HoloWorld site is featured this month at the Eisenhower site under the category of Education Reform in Action. Also, thanks to all the listeners who took the time to email and say that they enjoy listening to the show. As you can imagine, it takes a lot of work to put this type of show together each week, so it was very nice indeed to see that it's being enjoyed by you, the listeners. We're continuing to broadcast in 14.4 for a number of different reasons. Number one, people still have 14.4 modems. There are quite a few 14.4 modems still out there. The second reason is basically bandwidth conservation, which I strongly believe in. You just can't keep clogging up this internet with stuff being transferred all the time. Everyone who's listening to this can certainly understand what it is that I'm saying. I don't need to double this file size and deliver it over 28.8 in order for anyone to understand what's being said. You're going to have much higher quality in the signal itself. It's going to sound more like an FM broadcast rather than an AM broadcast, but I just can't see transferring that much information over the internet in the same amount of time. However, if we go to video, which we would like to do after the holidays, we will naturally have to move onto a 28.8 broadcast stream. Hopefully there are a lot of 28.8 modems under the Christmas tree this year. You will also need the Real Player 5.0 to view these shows. So if you haven't downloaded the free player, you should plan on doing so before we change over. Last week, Debbie reported on a fascinating new technology called Lightcraft. We received quite a few emails about it. So we're going to take a portion of this show to investigate this a little further. Lightcraft technology is actually a laser propulsion system for spaceflight. Now, folks, this is right out of science fiction. The spacecraft rises on a beam of laser light. This is not a theory or some UFO story from the tabloids. This is reality. It's already being done. I would like to thank one of our listeners, Scott. I know I don't usually use names, but I told him I'd thank him, who did some web research and sent the URLs this week. I checked them out, and I want to tell you I am hooked on Lightcraft. Now, I have a 6-second movie from White Sands, New Mexico, showing this technology at work. I am not going to give you the URL where to find this movie because I want to go over what this technology is all about before you see it. And we'll get back to this in just a moment. If you're looking for an internet provider that you can finally settle down with, look to Internet. Internet connects the Allentown, Bethlehem, and Easton areas, along with Reading, Philadelphia, and Phillipsburg, New Jersey areas. The HoloWorld site and the HoloTalk show both rely on the state-of-the-art equipment and fast connection speeds at Internet to bring you this programming, and I wouldn't risk your listening satisfaction with any other provider. If you think all Internet providers are the same, you're in for a pleasant surprise. Visit Internet at www.inter.net to get more information on switching over from your current provider. Okay, before we go on to our presentation on Lightcraft, I'd like to handle a couple email questions this week. Believe it or not, I left my zip drive somewhere last night. The telephone calls that came through are on my zip disk, which is sitting right here, but I don't have a drive to edit the telephone calls into the show this week, so we'll get to the telephone calls next week. I apologize for that, Todd. Okay, let's go to an email question. Our first one is this. This is strange reading this without Debbie here. What different effects does the power level of your laser have on the image that you create? This was sent by a young lady in school, and this is a very good question. The effect that it has is the fact that the thing that you're trying to overcome whenever you do a holographic exposure is vibration and other things that have an effect on the image when it's finished. When vibration and drift creep into your exposure, anything on that table that vibrates more than a fraction of a wavelength of light is going to dim that hologram considerably. If it vibrates too much, it's going to just get rid of the image and you won't have anything on the plate at all. What happens with the higher power lasers and why they're sought after so much is the fact that it cuts your exposure time down. Now, if you have a 1 milliwatt laser or you have a 35 milliwatt laser, obviously, you're going to find that you have a much shorter exposure time with a 35 milliwatt than you do the 1 milliwatt. Hence, there's less chance of something going wrong during that time. So that's what we're looking for when we go out there and we try and get the highest power laser that we can for holography, is the fact that we're looking for short exposure times and also the exposure curve sensitivity of the film itself. But we won't get into that right now. But in a nutshell, that's basically what we're looking for. We're looking to keep that exposure time down so that any vibration or drift or anything that will find its way into that holographic setup during that exposure time is eliminated. Our next email question states, I would like to know if we can use the air as the exhibition medium for showing animated or single-frame holography, as we see ads on electronic boards. And the person goes on to say, I am an animator on PC working as a designer of ads on electronic boards. I don't think this would fall under the category of holography. I do think there's a number of different technologies that are creating things similar to this. I believe, but I'm not absolutely certain because this is not my line here, that it's possible to take two laser beams from very powerful lasers, and each laser beam by themselves does not have any effect on the air. But where those laser beams meet, if they cross one another, the combination of the power of those two beams causes the air right at that spot to glow. So in theory, if you take those beams and control them using a scanner and have them cross each other's path in the air, each of those spots where those laser beams touch one another and their powers are combined, you will get a glow, and you can draw out your images in that way. I'm also familiar with taking lasers and scanning them inside of photorefractive crystals, though I understand the crystals are relatively small, maybe only a few centimeters in size. And where those two laser beams meet inside the photorefractive crystal, you also have the same effect that you do in the air. So, no, this isn't holography that you're talking about, but I'm sure, there's millions of ways of doing three-dimensional, probably not millions, but there's a lot of different ways to create three-dimensional images that don't have anything at all to do with holography, and this just happens to be one of them. Okay, we're going to be covering the new Lightcraft vehicle, and I have an article about this new technology which I would like to share with listeners. I also have a movie of this, and I'll give you the URL where you can find it in just a minute. But first, let's learn a little bit more about Lightcraft itself. The futuristic concept of a small laser-propelled spacecraft has taken its first research flights towards reaching space. That progress has been measured by short flights of 2 to 20 seconds duration at a military research facility using a high-powered infrared carbon dioxide laser, a wavelength invisible to the naked eye. The achievement can be likened to Robert Goddard's first successful flights of his liquid propellant chemical rocket that attained a height of 41 feet after a 2.5-second burn in March of 1926. In sharp contrast with Goddard's rockets, there is absolutely no fuel on board this prototype laser-boosted craft, which has a diameter of 15 centimeters, mass of 40 to 50 grams, machined from a solid block of 6061-T6 aluminum. The Air Force Research Laboratory's Propulsion Directorate at Edwards Air Force Base, California, is conducting these technology development research and flight demonstrations. Additional research money has been provided this year by NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center Advanced Space Transportation Program. The laser-propelled flights take place at the White Sands Missile Range in New Mexico at the High Energy Laser Systems Test Facility. The Lightcraft propulsion research employs the Pulsed Laser Vulnerability Test System, a 10-kilowatt laser built by Avco Textron for the Army. PLVTS is the highest average power pulsed carbon dioxide laser presently operating in the United States. The laser-propelled vehicle, called Lightcraft because it flies on a beam of laser light, is designed to harness the energy of a laser beam and convert it into propulsive thrust. The Lightcraft receives the kilojoule pulses from the PLVTS laser at a rate of 10 times per second upon the concentrating mirror that forms its rear section. The function of this parabolic mirror is to focus the pulsed laser energy into a ring-shaped absorption propulsion chamber. Here the laser beam is concentrated to extremely high intensities, sufficient to momentarily burst the inlet air into a highly luminous plasma, with instantaneous pressures reaching tens of atmospheres providing thrust. This air-breathing pulse detonation engine concept owes its origins to the German V-1 buzz bomb of World War II that ran on aviation fuel. The original Lightcraft concept was designed as a single stage-to-orbit spacecraft that would become a microsatellite upon reaching orbit. The spacecraft lifts off in a laser-propelled air-breathing engine mode, and as it nears Mach 5 speed and 30 kilometers altitude, shifts into a laser-propelled rocket mode. The air-breathing engine mode would develop quasi-steady thrust by pulsing at hundreds to thousands of times a second, depending on the Mach number and altitude flown along the boost trajectory into orbit. The rocket mode would use onboard propellant in the form of liquid hydrogen or nitrogen to convert and expand the laser energy for propulsion once the Lightcraft had climbed above the atmosphere. Unlike Goddard's rocket engine, no oxidizer is required. The SDIO study showed that all launch to orbital conditions for a laser-propelled vehicle could be satisfied by a single high-power ground-based laser, with or without the aid of a low-altitude laser relay mirror. Laser boost capability has been demonstrated at the White Sands facility, with Lightcraft reaching 14 feet vertically in 2-second gyroscopically stabled free flights, as well as 400-foot horizontal guide wire flights lasting 10 to 20 seconds. The researchers plan to increase the Lightcraft's free flight altitude by moving the launch stand outside test cell number 3, where the flights will no longer be limited by the lab's ceiling height. The near-term goal is to reach an altitude of 1 kilometer in the next 18 months with the PLVTS laser. To climb even higher, as an example, 10 to 100 kilometers or near the edge of space, will require reactivating the 150 kilowatt pulse driver CO2 laser now stored in test cell 2. Preparations are underway to enlist this powerful infrared laser that was developed at the Avco Research Laboratory in the mid-1970s. The predominant reason for investigating this laser launch concept is its low cost, simplicity, and responsiveness upon demand. Laser Lightcraft and their propulsion modes are a radical departure from the chemically fueled rockets used today. If successful, this new energy beam propulsion technology will supplement rather than replace current manned and unmanned launch systems. The approach holds great promise for reducing the launch costs of microsatellites by several orders of magnitude less than today's chemical-fueled rocket technology. The evolution of ultra-lightweight, high-temperature materials, dual-mode laser propulsion engines, powerful lasers, and the opportunity to change science fiction into scientific fact are the driving forces behind this joint project. So there you have a quick rundown on what this light wave technology is all about. I think this is really cool stuff, the fact that these crafts can be propelled into space using laser beams. That's just one of the coolest things I think that's come down the pike in a long time. Now, I have a URL which I'd like to give to you where I've taken one of the movies from the experimental stages of this project, and you can log on and see for yourself how this technology works. Now, here's the catch. You're going to need Real Player 5.0 to view this. So if you don't have Real Player 5.0, either number one, get it, or number two, don't bother going over to the page because when you download it, you're not going to be able to play it. Now, I recorded this so that it's a high bit rate. I think I used like 300K connection rate for this. So if anyone has like a 28.8 modem, 56K modem, what's going to happen is you're going to download this movie first. You're not going to watch it as a streaming movie because it will not stream into your modem. It's set for a higher rate. So I have it set up so that you'll download the real video itself. I think it runs about 300K or something like that. It's not that big for a movie. It's only 6 seconds. Download it and watch it and see for yourself how this works. It's one of the coolest things. Here's the URL. It's www.holoworld.com/lightcraft.html. And I'll put a link on this on the HoloTalk page as well. And Lightcraft is one word, lightcraft.html. And you'll see a little link there. Just click on the link. You'll download the movie. Okay, Intergraph has an announcement. They've received the final delivery from AGFA. This is it, folks. Once it's gone, it's gone. And here's what they have in stock. If you're interested, you can email Intergraph, and here's the email address, tjeong@aol.com. That's tjeong@aol.com. Here's what we have. AE56 film, 30 centimeter by 40 centimeter by 50 sheets, 5 boxes. 8E75 film, 30 centimeter by 40 centimeter, 8 inch by 10 inch, 4 by 5 inch film, 100 sheets in a box. I guess they have quite a bit of this. They have their, it says here, small quantities in parentheses. So the one on the 5 boxes above is all they have on that with the 8056. The rest, I guess they have a big order. 8075 plates, 30 by 40 centimeter, 10 in a box. There's 10 boxes. That's all they have left. 8 by 10 inch plates. There's 10 in a box. They have 20 boxes left. That's it. And then they also have 4 by 5 inch plates, which come 20 in a box. They don't have any listing down here as how many they have, so maybe they've got a nice size order of that. They also say that Intergraph has established a distributorship with Slavish and is keeping stock. And if it's not in stock, they can get delivery in 1 month on the following items of sizes 2.5 by 2.5 inch, 4 by 5 inch, 8 by 10 inch, 30 by 40 centimeter, plates only. Other sizes can be quoted. Here's what they have. PFG-01, which is similar to AGFA 8075. PFG-03, which is red sensitive with twice the resolution of 8075. FPF, green sensitive. PFG-03C. This is panchromatic for full color reflection holograms. Price per plates on all plates are similar to prices on AGFA. So if you want to get information on either what's left with AGFA or the new plates themselves, that email address again is tjeong@aol.com. Okay, that wraps it up for another week, folks. I'm out of here. Next week's guest is going to be Derek Gallen of Royal Holographic Gallery in Canada. So log on and hear what Derek has to say. We'll be interviewing him by phone here from the studio, and he'll be our guest next week, which is the 21st of December. So for myself and Debbie Lee, who has the week off, Have a good week, and thanks for listening to HoloTalk. See you next week.